So, uh, Hello and welcome to everyone. A very bright and chirpy good morning. And this is a very unique session that NBT has done today, wherein we are getting some noted writers of children's literature interacting with child authors. India is full of talents, and having child authors from India who have written their books in itself is quite a feat. So NBT has brought together on this platform the two sides of the coin. And so before we start, I would request my director, Sri Yuvraj Malikji, to address us and let us know more about what NBT does and what he would like to say.
Thank you so much, Kanchanji. Namaskar. Very good morning, ma'am. And
Good
I
morning.
welcome Ms. Sudhamurthy ji, Deepa ji, Mr. Roy ji, Dr. Rajesh ji, all the most respected name in child literature category, which people look up to get a new content every year. So briefly, I will sum up how this idea came up. Last book fair, when I was there and I took over the charge of National Book Trust, I found there is a children corner, children pavilion. But I asked where are the children authors? So they were missing. That's the moment this idea started, and I discussed with Sudha ma'am, and she told definitely next time we will have a children pavilion with children author, children as audience, and children as content. Everything will be by children only, including the moderator. So this is how we started, but unfortunately, Corona has derailed this process. But now we will get back. So sooner or later, we are digitally on a children platform. It's an honor for me and a pride. I am with Ayan, Sarah, Dhruv, Ayan, Akash, Akshat, Yashi, and many more whom my name is not with me. Let me mention we have a very specialized domain about children literature. It's a very big benchmark which we set for the industry to create content. But at the same time, we have to be allowed to the situation what kind of content we are getting. Are we producing it unilaterally? What impact it has on children? So, keeping in view of that, we are trying to take our content to one level ahead, where we are analyzing our content through psychologists and psycho-behavior analysts, so that they tell us what they understand from this literature. So, very soon, all our children literature will pass through the filter of psychological analysis of all our content. Now, a lot of books have come up. These are young people. Today, if I look at me, these people are 30, 40 years ahead of me. With this much age, 40 years, I have not written a book. And in less than 10 years, they have produced a book which is making pulse in this sector. So these are brilliant people, wonderful, blessed, and divine. And if you have switched to writing, it's a very divine intervention because writing has got a flavor. It liberates you. It extends your horizon. It always elevates you. It gives you expression. Actual personality comes up. And blessing in disguise, new education policy has opened the domain. Now you can be MTech in computer science, and at the same time you can be India's one of the most respected children author also. So you can choose your passion, education together and follow them together. So that barriers are over. Now I will just mention, NBT will provide all the platform wherever you want to write, you write. We'll give you the space, we'll give you the platform, we'll take your content, guide you, give you the direction, and try to bring your content on a national platform. We have a very wide reach. I want you all to write, and I want you to all become the future of the country. Day this country will start writing under 10 years. Let me tell you, we will start getting Booker and Nobel immediately. The only problem is we don't write at this creative age. You are the peak of your creativity. And only thing, two things you must keep in mind that you should not deviate from nature and you should not deviate from culture. If you keep in mind these two things and you give this Harry Potter phenomena will be overshadowed by Indian phenomena. We will give the world class content which India looks up to. If you count 20 hero objects in terms of literature, you will find out of 20, minimum 17, 18 will be Indian. So that is the depth which we have into our neurons. So let's our neurons be scribbled on paper. Let's give wings to our creativity and all the wonderful children, ma'am, all the eminent panel of speakers, Deepaji, Royji, they are name in the industry of children literature. So responsibility is on us to guide our generation. And those who write well, I will adopt them. Let me be very honest. Those who are willing to continue, we'll adopt them, we'll sponsor them, we'll give them the platform, and there's no looking back. But keep writing and keep writing. I want you to rise as the author of India. because when your book will go, your name of the country will go. With this small brief, I will sum up and hand over to the experts and special guests of the day. And Kanchanji, please take over. And I would love to hear today and let them speak.
Right, sir. Right. So moving ahead, now as Enid Blyton said, writing for children is an art in itself and a most interesting one at that. So with that, I would request our keynote speaker, Ma'am Sudha Murthy, to tell us about the scene of children's literature in India and her own experiences as a children's writer, both in Kannada as well as in English.
Thank you, Kanchana and NBT and Yuvraj in particular and the other staff. Um, Good morning, children. It's nice to see youngsters sitting and writing. It makes me very, very happy. So, congratulations to all of you and the esteemed children book writers are here, like Deepaji there, and illustrator Subir Roy ji there. Many people are there. So, it is nice to attend this one along with children. And it was Yuvraj's idea, and I really felt last year in BT we should do something. Children should participate, and we underestimate them. They have great potential, and we always underestimate. Now, given 10 minutes time, I just want to touch few topics. For example, I come from a village. I'm the oldest sitting in this whole Zoom session, I think. So I came from, so my background helped me a lot to write children literature. I came from a village, and in my childhood, there was no electricity in our village. So there was no movies, and TV to nahi tha. So once in a year, there will be a tent will come and you'll see a few movies, and that is to Bhakta Prahlada, Dashavatara, all that kind of a movies. And forget about children movies. Normal movies are not available. So in a village where children grow up and have tremendous potential, they have that capacity, and how do you utilize that? So the only way I could utilize it by reading. Though I started reading in a very, very young age, and the books were not available. Either there will be some Kannada children book there, which I could finish in a month's time. And Chandamama was the only other source. And today, you may not even know there is a magazine called Chandamama, and we used to wait for that. And invariably, I started reading mythology. So, whatever book was available, I used to read in those days because there are not much children literature. When I grew up, I realized people do read later after 20, 30 years. I realized that children do read different books, and there was most of the time it was not Indian English writer, it was non-Indian English writer like Enid Blyton or someone else from the different country. And what's the famous five and all, I went through that, then I realized they're nice books, but it was culturally related to that country, not to us. I was not able to relate that story to my own story. So I said, what about these children who are brought up in Delhi, or maybe Kanpur, or maybe in Madurai, or maybe in Hubli, or maybe in Bangalore? Every state has its own culture, and overall we have Indian culture. And the stories what the Western children writer were giving was not compatible. I felt personally, it was highly personal opinion. So I felt I wish there should have been some children writer, particularly in English literature, because today's scenario is 90% or 80% of the people who prefer to go to English medium school, unlike my time where we went to vernacular school. So there is not much literature by Indians in children's section. That's what really hit me. And while reading Sanskrit and many other languages, in my past reading time, I realized there are tremendous stories available in India. But sometimes you have to dilute, sometimes you have to modify them. And Katha Sarit Sagara is one of the famous story book, Katha Sarit Sagara. It says the ocean of stories. And there are numerous stories in India, but you have to little bit of modify depending on the today's scenario and age. And then I did a lot of research in different, whichever country I will go, I will always buy children book and read how they have written. I realized that German stories are much more logical. England stories are much more queen, king, and the princess. Chinese stories are more into magic, not really magic, partially magic, and lot into ghost sometimes. And Middle East stories are more into a king, a sultan, and a begum, and there'll be like a bad man, like Alauddin story or anything you take, and there'll be a kind of a belief, if if you do this, then the ghost will come and help you, etc. That also shows the psyche of the people where we live. Whereas Indian stories are, I felt, we have all the genre, like we have fun, we have God. We are more with the God actually compared to others. We are more into gods. If you do good things, God will come and help you. If you do bad things, God will come and punish you. So this moral of the story is somewhere God and goddesses, their curse and their benefits are always there. So when you write a children's story, you should know the different types of stories and make it sometimes contemporary, sometimes old, depending on what you want to write. But make it little more logical, little more, I mean, morals you don't have to tell openly. You can always put it in such a way that in a story you will come to know. So combination of all the countries you take, and more in India, we have so many stories. We can create lots of stories, lots of stories you can generate with modification. The original children's story is actually Panchatantra. There is nothing like Panchatantra in the world. All the sections are so beautifully written, and it's original writing. Okay, it can be modified today, but it's original writing, and they are fantastic. So, if you want to tell anything to children, if you go on telling you have to do these things, they get bored. Suppose you make it a story, and at the end of the story, the person who does wrong thing is punished, or the person who does wrong thing had difficult time. If you show, it gets into children's psyche. It's very important. I always remember like this: a child's mind is like a wet wall, a wet wall. And when the wall is wet, you take a sharp knife or a kanch ka tukda or something like that, and you make a picture on that. And then you just leave it for some time. When it is dry, the picture remains. Same way, what values you give, what we teach to our students, what we teach to our children through stories will remain with them forever. So it's a really a big responsibility of children writers, that what they write, what language they use, is it correct way, is it culturally it is correct, and promote more, like what Yuvraj said. I agree, more of the nature. When you live with the nature, nature is bountiful, nature will help you. And when you go against nature, such messages, if you can embed in your stories, children will really like it. As a story writer, I have enjoyed. I scaled down myself to a child between 10 to 12 years, and I write, and I have enjoyed all the children's stories, whatever I have written. The most important part is 50% is writer's area and 50% is illustrator. I want to give 50% credit to illustrator, because imagination, they will expand the imagination. They will write beautiful pictures. And when your children, and the main attraction for us to read a book was to see the illustration. For example, in Karnataka, there were two magazines. One was Balamitra, other one was Chandamama, and both were children magazine. And we always loved Chandamama. Apart from stories, the illustrations were so beautiful. So it's very natural for children. If you have a good illustrator, 50% the credit should go to him or her, 50% to the writer, and ultimately together they can create wonder. I'm very happy that the children of your age have come. I want to listen to your stories. And when we were children, when we were children, we never had any platform. So when we write, I used to write in a notebook and keep quiet. Just write in a notebook and keep quiet until I was 20. Okay. And by the time your ideas also change. My first book came only when I was 29 years old. And my first children book came when I was 52 years old. So if you get this kind of a platform, you have a great future. And if you create a contemporary Indian children's stories, then you will be a guideline for the children who are brought up in India to read something in their own culture, their own stories where they can relate, and you can beat anyone, provided if you have mind. So thank you very much, Yuvaraji giving me a chance to talk to in this session. And more than that, I want to listen to children, what they have written. Let's see some time again. If there are no COVID, I would have really enjoyed interacting with them, but there is always a chance. Sometime we'll meet again. Thank you very much. And I will join 1 o'clock session for the questions, but I'll be on the line to listen to children's stories. Thank you
Yes,
very much.
yes. Thank you. Thank you, Sudha ma'am, for telling us that how Indian stories and Indian scene and Panchatantra has been the one which has actually kept us much more rooted to our stories, Indian stories, and how illustrations are important. Please do come for the 1 o'clock session. Children would like to ask you lots of questions.
I'll be here. I'll be here.
Right, ma'am. Right. Now, I would request Deepa ji. Deepa Agarwal, ma'am, she has written more than 50 books in English and Hindi. And she writes poetry also, translates Hindi classics into English. She has received, Deepa ma'am has received many awards for her books, and a lot of her books have been in Japanese, Chinese, and Korean as well. And Deepa ma'am has written a lot of books for NBT also. Deepa ji, I would request you to talk on the topic my story behind the stories. Oh, sorry, the stories behind my stories.
Namaskar, Sri Yuvraj Malik, Mrs. Sudhamurthy, my friends Subir Roy, who's illustrated so many of my books, Dr. Rajesh Kumar Vyas, Kanchan, and all the dear child authors. How marvelous it is to be here at this lovely event. I'm absolutely delighted to be a part and very, very honored. And hearty congratulations to all of you for achieving what you have at this very young age. I mean, so many adults, cannot boast of something accomplished like this. And you have done it with your dedication, determination, and self belief. That is the most marvelous thing. And I'd like to congratulate the parents too, because the parents are the ones who have been guiding and motivating their children. Well, it was wonderful. Sri Yuvraj Malik talked about the scheme about encouraging and promoting young writers. And Mrs. Sudhamurthy talked so beautifully about our literature, Indian literature. And, that has always been a big issue, that we don't have enough of our own stories. Well, my own story, the story of my own writing career actually began with the stories that my mother used to tell me. I think this is where you get your uh, love for stories, your interest in stories, when parents begin to tell stories at home. And my mother used to tell me folk tales from my region, the stories from Uttarakhand. But apart from that, both my parents used to read to me. So that really got me hooked to stories, and I became an avid reader. Now, what happened? When I was 7 years old, my parents decided to send me to boarding school because we lived in a very small town and they thought I'd get a better education there. But at night, I used to feel a little afraid, I was missing home and definitely missing the stories my mother used to tell me. So I started making up my own story, and I had a kind of a series going on in my head every night. And I called it The Adventures of Polly, because I think I was quite influenced by Enid Blyton, the author I was reading a lot of at that time. So these stories, the series went on in my head, but those were very different times. As Sudhamurthy also said, one just made up stories and never thought that would ever get published. So it took many, many years before I became a published author. And when my children were in school, uh, I, I used to get a magazine for them, which was called Target Magazine. And one day I thought, let me try sending a story, because I love stories, and said, let me try my hand at writing a story. And that is where my first story was published, and this was 35 years back. And that experience has stayed with me. You know, the experience of writing my first story, and also because, you know, the editor, Rosalind Wilson, she was a person who would discuss each story with the author, and that was a learning experience. I learned about the finer points of developing plot, character, and dialogue. And the other thing I learned was to take rejection. You know, these are experiences that an author has through their career. I learned about taking rejection because my first two stories were not accepted. But she sent a very kind rejection note and said, try again. And I tried again. And then that is how my career began of writing stories for children. Now, the same year, that was 1985, I also had a picture book story accepted by Children's Book Trust in their competition for writers. And they had announced a theme. And I'd like to show you this picture book, Ashok's New Friends, beautifully illustrated by legendary artist Pulak Biswas. Now, they had announced a theme to portray boys and girls as equals. And I feel this is a theme that has stayed with me because, you know, when I'm writing, sometimes it strikes me, you know, when they're very adventurous roles, people authors try to, you know, give the adventurous roles to boys and the stay-at-home roles to girls. But this was a kind of an experience that made me think, okay, am I giving enough, you know, space to my girl characters too? Am I giving them more opportunities the way girls deserve in real life? So this was my very first book, and it set me off on the path to writing for children. And since then, you know, I've written many different kinds of books. Now, let me show you a couple of my other first. This was also published by Children's Book Trust. It was a mystery story, and this is also another mystery story published by Ratnasagar, 3 Days to Disaster. You know, I was very fond of reading mysteries when I was young. And I think that is one reason why my first books were mystery stories. But later on, I went on to write many, many different kinds of stories. I didn't stick to one genre. Somehow, it's always, you know, the story that's developing in my mind that is the most important for me. And I've written, well, not only mystery and adventure, but stories of everyday life, you know, the problems we face in our day-to-day lives. Also, ghost stories, because I loved ghost stories as a kid. I loved the delicious thrill of listening to a ghost story. And especially living, you know, in a place with lots of dark forests and all. There were so many ghost stories going around. Apart from that, I've written fantasy, I've written biographies, and other kinds of nonfiction. I always wrote the type of story that I like to read. So, over this journey of 35 years, I've peopled my books with all kinds of characters. And for example, I have a character who's a very daring and adventurous hippo. I also have characters who are feisty grandmothers, or I have child detectives in my mystery stories, or girls who are fighting evil monsters. Then there are stories of friendship, which I will show you later. So you see, I have not confined myself to one genre of story. And I also have, you know, I've done biographies, like you will find in my books, Rani Lakshmi Bai, you know, the great heroes of our history, Chanakya. And I love writing these books because it gave me the opportunity to research. And through research, I discovered so many new things. So, you know, that's what a writer's life is like, what a writer's journey is like, always making new discoveries. So, as Kanchan kindly mentioned, I have over 50 books published. And some of them are NBT books. And here are some of my NBT books. Here's The Mango Birds. And I'm sure Subir Roy remembers this book because he has illustrated it. And it's been translated into many languages and recently into Spanish, which is absolutely wonderful for me. And this is a fantasy, Birju and the Flying Horse. And this book too has appeared in 16 Indian languages. And that is the wonderful thing about publishing with NBT, that the books are translated into so many languages. Here's another book with an environmental slant. So you see, my writing story is very varied. It's gone in many different directions. Now, sometimes readers ask me, which is the favorite among your books? But, it's very hard for a writer to say which is your favorite book because books are like your children. But if I had to make an absolute choice, I would say it is this book, Caravan to Tibet. And the reason is that it is based on my family history. My ancestors used to trade with Tibet, and I was very curious to explore my roots. So the research for this book helped me to understand the kind of way of life my ancestors led, which we are far removed from now. Well, let me show you some of my latest books just to get you an idea how my writing journey has wandered in many different directions. This is a book called Blessed. It is a fantasy on the theme of women's education for girls. I recall the time when the Taliban stopped allowing girls to attend school, and that was such a shocker for me. It was so horrifying, and I think it was at the back of my mind when I wrote this book. So this is how our stories arise. They arise from real situations that hurt you, that affect you, and they make you think, and you present it in a fictional world. Then this is another recent book of mine, The Teenage Diary of Noor Jahan. Now this is all fiction based on facts. And I had a lot of fun writing this book, trying to imagine what Noor Jahan might have been as a teenager. And since it is in a diary form, so I'm imagining her thoughts and, what a brave and daring woman she was. So what must she have been like a teenager? And this is another recent book, Friendship Stories, about that precious thing called friendship. And these are real life stories. Many of them are taken from incidents that actually occurred either to me or I observed or to my own children. Because, I take a lot from, I used to take a lot from my children's remarks. My daughter's all grown up now. Sometimes they're not very happy about it. But I always feel if you're writing stories for children, you have to take it from their lives, their experiences, what is going on in their heads, what is happening in their day-to-day routine. Now, I have retold a lot of traditional tales, and Sudha Murthy was talking about the wonderful treasure of stories that we have. And I've always been fascinated by the Mahabharata, with its deep insights into human nature, the reality of, human nature. So this is Mahabharata stories, which one of my books, which came out last year. Thankfully, I had several books come out, 4 or 5 books come out last year. This year is not been so good. But this is one book which appeared. It's a non-fiction called Journey to the Forbidden City. And it's about the exploration of Tibet. It's a true story. It's about an explorer who mapped Tibet in disguise and the dangers he faced. So this is what people in the past, explorers did. They, literally risked their lives to provide maps for us. So this is what my writing journey has been like. And it's really, I think it's wonderful to be a writer because you have so much of a variety of experience to explore, so many imaginary worlds to, create. You can create your own worlds. So really, it is so delightful for me to see that so many of you youngsters are taking up writing, because this is one career that makes you learn in different ways. You make new discoveries every time you start writing a new story. And in our country, stories are considered practically sacred. They're connected with religious rituals, and their stories about the gods, and they bind us. The traditional stories in particular, they bind us in a way that we often don't think about, the way stories connect us all and make us part of one huge tradition. So please do remember, this is a very meaningful journey that you have undertaken, and it may not always be smooth sailing. I will not deny that there have been many bumps, many ups and downs, many rejections, but I think it helps you to cope with all the other obstacles you face in your life. So always believe in yourself, always stay true to the story that is burning in your heart. And I wish you all the best in your future writing endeavors. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Deepa ma'am. I think the child authors with us right now are listening to every word that Sudha ma'am and Deepa ma'am has said. That you don't need to worry about rejections. They come, but then they make us a better writer slowly and help us to move ahead. And also that how a journey while writing. As a writer, you also learn on the process. You research and become better. So I'll move ahead. Thank you, Deepa ma'am, for sharing all these details with us. I will now move on to Subir Roy ji. Mr. Rupert Roy is an internationally award-winning, widely traveled illustrator, and he has been the art director in CBT. And he has also worked on various projects in UNICEF. He has contributed to illustrations in lots of publications, not only for NBT, for many publications. Subir Roy ji, हम आपसे थोड़ा बहुत सुनना चाहते हैं, so that बच्चे ये समझें कि इलास्ट्रेशंस कितनी इम्पोर्टेंट हैं एक बच्चों की किताब को बहुत अच्छा बनाने के लिए.
Thank you very much. This has been a very wonderful moment because I have been a fan of Sudha Murthy ji, Pratham, and in fact, in the past, there's one association, Pratham Books also, and I am in awe of the kind of work which they've been doing for the schools for the children of the country. Yuvraj, this is my first association with you. I had a very long association with NBT, but this happens to be the first one, and then I just adored the way you spoke. You spoke about to the children and spoke about the children's literature. Deepa Agarwalji has been a favorite author to me. We have been associating in few projects in the past, and I remember there was a American publishing house who used to bring out a children's magazine called. Am I audible? Can you hear me? Yeah. There's a American children's magazine where I did.
We can't see you. We can hear, but we can't see you.
Yeah. Yeah. Better? No. It will come back now.
सुबीर रॉय जी, आपका अभी इस समय वीडियो नहीं आ रहा है, but we can hear you. But अभी आ रहा था.
Right. At my end, I can see all four of you, all three of you really.
Maybe the connection.
Shall I continue or shall I? wait for a rewind.
No, we can see you.
I suppose
We can see you.
if you can hear me, I can continue talking. Can I?
Yes, yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, please.
So what happens? Can the children? Yeah, we have got August Company. I've got very talented children who has got books published at his age. In fact, one of the reasons why I came into this profession was in the school magazine, Wall magazine. One of my friends, he was a budding poet, so he would write his poetry and submit in the school magazine, and I would do a little cartoon and drawing. So his poetry was not approved by the school magazine authority, but my drawing was accepted. It was put on the wall. So I was very much encouraged. I said, okay, this is a shortcut. This is something which I can do and that people appreciate also. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. Yes.
Yeah. So then when after growing up, I would enjoy drawing. Wherever I go, I'll draw and then, while do a little scribbling, drawing meaning doing a little scribbling and all that. And I was a voracious reader also because in my time, parents will never especially encourage, they will not especially encourage us to read a storybook. We had to go in for a barter trade with a friend and tell me, look, you have got this book. Can I borrow it? And you can take mine also. Now I think we are living in the golden age because parents are always told, please encourage, which is correct also. Please encourage your children to read. But in my time, I said, okay, we had to find a way to get books and all that. That is because the children of today, they have got lots of other avenues open. They have got the internet. They have got many other things also. Television, internet and all these things. Anyways, as you read the books, those books, whatever books were available in our time, uh, there are many English classics which are available in the Indian language. Like, for example, Tom Sawyer's story, for example, then Jules Verne's stories, for example, then some of Arthur Conan Doyle's stories and all that. So those we'll read along with many of the Indian stories. We'll read Premchand, we'll read some of the Bengali stories. I can read Bengali, so I could read. Then there are many other Indian stories also. The R.K. Lakshman, R.K. Narayanan, for example, then Ruskin Bond, then quite a few other authors. They're not very many, but whoever were there, many of them, they're very popular with children like me. So along with these books, you'll find there are lots of illustrations also, which would interest me. And so those illustrations would, in a way, inspire me. And that was my first exposure to art. Then at times I'll copy these things also. At times I'll try to create certain thing on my own by looking at my surroundings and try to. I didn't know the meaning of the word sketching at that time, but try to draw by looking at things. There can be a billy sitting in the house, so I'll just look at this thing, draw. Maybe a little maybe guy who is selling, you know, golappa, for example, standing in one corner. There can be a Bharati procession which is going, or there can be festival, Diwali festival, the Ravan being burnt in the Dasera and all these things. So those images will have certain impact in my mind. And at a later stage, we didn't have many of this on the spot painting competitions also. But it will have an impact on my mind. And later on, maybe at some stage, I'll just do a little scribbling, do a little coloring also of those subjects, whatever I was exposed to. My friends would appreciate that. At times, if I'm lucky, grown-ups also would appreciate that. Done a good job. But get back to studies. That's more important than your art and all that. Things have totally changed. When I grew up, I joined an organization where the organization had done lots of work for children. One of the major work is on the spot competition, which is very famous in this part of the country. Shankar's on the spot competition. So we would go for the competition. You'll see the children, they're drawing, they're free to draw. They have got a whole lot of papers, colors, and all that, and subject matter. They were not restricted with any particular subject. They say you can draw whatever you like. Except for the grown-up children, they'll be given certain subject because after all, it was a competition. Then other job which I had in this particular organization was functioning as an art director, doing illustrations myself, running certain art-related events. It can be art competition, it can be illustrators competition, etc., etc. The job was fairly interesting for me. One thing which I realized at that point in time was children. I've seen many a time the children they'll come to draw, but many a times they would draw something which they were taught by the art teacher in the school, which I do not personally appreciate because I find many a time the children are much more talented and they should be given certain amount of freedom to draw what they like and to draw the way they want. Not the way the art teacher will look, give a border, decorate the border in a particular way, draw the hills like inverted pyramids, and draw the river like this, and draw the sun like a circle with little. But that is limiting his capability, his talents. So you should not teach the child to draw things in a particular. Let him draw whatever way he feels like drawing this thing. Let him pick up from this thing. Let him make mistake. That doesn't matter. But you cannot block the flow of his energy and creativity. That's very wrong. And I've seen art class becomes a burden for many of the teachers, many of the students also. So वो आर्ट क्लास में जाना है वहां जाके वो टीचर आके ये कराएंगे वो कराएंगे. So that is something and many of them they do not enjoy, which is a pity because we did not have an art class per se in our time. So whenever you get a chance to have a little competition or whatever for a special occasion, maybe on Republic, on Independent Day or something. So you'll draw and we'll feel great energy to go and draw, carry whatever paints and paper and pencils which you have will go for the competition site and draw. And nobody will come and interfere. So I think that's the best way to teach. There are a few things which I've learned in the process of the job which I've been doing in the last 30 odd years. One is, like I say, they should be given freedom. Let them pick up the way they want to. In case they are stuck, they'll ask the teacher or a grown-up, how do you draw this, for example? If it's a complicated draw, how do you draw a motorcycle, for example? Which is a complicated drawing for a urban child or a child from the village. Or how do you draw a such and such thing? So maybe in that case, the art teacher guides him or her a little bit. But otherwise, leave them free. Let them pick up something. I have seen the wonderful composition they come up with. In fact, in our on-the-spot competition, we see children drawing, for example, and come up with unique composition, like a birthday party, for example. They'll frame the piece of paper with lots of children sitting. It's kind of aerial view, and then have a table in the middle and the cake kept on top of it, a few candles and all that. This was the kind of composition I could not, or any artist of my colleagues, and they could not even imagine this is the way it can be presented. So it's best it should be left. They should be given the freedom to draw whatever way they want. There are a few other things also. As a child, I would always notice many of the children's stories at that time would glorify the villain character in the story, in the text as well as in the pictures. The villain is a deadly and scary fellow and all these things, which I realized at a later stage is wrong to do, because you can make the villain look, when you are drawing this thing, make the villain look uh, very give him a very negative appearance, but end of the day present the villain such a way so that he remains a comic character. A child should never be afraid of the villain as such. He is doing all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, he is the one who is going to be defeated one, and he does lots of things also which generates fun for the reader as well as for the viewer also. So I feel the villain character should be presented such a way so that the child is never afraid of the villain, because that pays off, because when he grows up, he is not afraid of negativity in life, whatever kind of negativity. Uh, for the budding artist, I've got one very one observation. I find like all the speakers, Deepaji and Sudhaji, all of you were talking about. You mentioned Panchtantra. Deepaji also mentioned some of the things which should have been picked up from this surrounding, which is very important. I've got two books with me. One is this is called The Best Friends. This was brought out by CBT. this has got the main characters are two puppeteers. They would go all around. They'll go all over the country with their puppets, and have puppet shows, makeshift puppet shows in a small mela, in a small thing. So I thought that is the way the characters can be designed. These are typical puppeteers. Can you see this thing? These are typical puppeteers. This was brought out by CBT, and they go to the villages, they go to the small towns and all that, and they perform things. And then one day, one of the puppet was missing, and the story is all about that. Why I'm showing this is, while drawing this book, I thought there are certain details, certain motifs which can be picked up from my surroundings. There used to be. Is the video on? Is the video on? Can you hear me?
No, we can hear you, but your video we cannot see. Yeah,
It's getting, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's come back now. There's a book I was talking about. This is a book I was talking about. It's called Best Friends. This is about friendship between a small girl and the puppet which she used to own, and then what happened to the puppet. And there are lots of interesting characters, typical Indian characters also. So I enjoyed doing this book. I enjoyed illustrating this book. And while doing this book, I would go and take out little photographs also. In Delhi itself, there used to be a little puppeteers colony, which does not exist anymore. So I had few sketches there, which I had done many years back. And I would then, refer to some of the photographs and all that, and build up the characters, which is very important. Do you have any child boss here who is also an artist in the group? Anyone here who is also has illustrated or enjoys drawing in this group? No?
Diane, who will, I suppose, the interaction talk to you about
Okay, good. Yeah, that's good.
today. I'll ask him to talk about. Yes.
Right. There's one more book which is all about a small girl, and she used to have this puppy, and this book is all about them. So in this, I have, while creating the cityscape, I have added certain things which are new to the city, like Delhi or something. But there's a metro line which is shown in the background part of and the puppy is below that, and this is the puppy I was talking about. And also, while doing this book, I'll make lots of sketches of a puppy. That's the puppy. Do you like it? Yeah, they move around in a particular way. So I would make many sketches and then put them in the book also. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you enjoy drawing, if you intend to do a little bit of illustration, you need not take up illustration as a career, but you can do it for the fun of it. So when you do that, you must take sketches, you must take photographs from your surrounding, and not necessarily copy from another book or something, right? And try and do that. That'll be interesting for you. That'll be interesting for the reader also. That'll be very original. Now, originally is something which is unique, right? Otherwise, copying, anybody can do that. Originally is something which people appreciate. So you must try and do that also. So that has been my journey. I have so far done about maybe more than 100 books so far for children. There's few other art-oriented and child-oriented events where I had taken part, and I really enjoy being in this profession. And I'm really thankful to National Book Trust for Kanchan Ma'am to invite me over here and give the opportunity to interact with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suveji. Thank you. Thanks a lot for telling us how illustrations are very important, and they speak 1,000 words as much as the written words do. And also, very interestingly, telling us about how the depiction of villains, so-called the grey characters, in a storybook is also important, and also how originality is necessary. And if children would like to write or would like to draw, originality and what comes to their mind is important. Now I will move on to Dr. Rajesh Kumar Vyas. Dr. Rajesh Kumar Vyas is a prolific critic of contemporary art and culture. and he started writing for children in Nandan and other children's magazines. He has more than 20 books to his credit, and books have been published by many publishers, and also he has been awarded the Sahitya Akademi Award, the Rahul Sanskritayan Puraskar, the Ganeshilal Vyas Puraskar, Padai Puraskar, and so many other. और जैसे कि सुधा मैम ने पहले बताया कि नॉट ओनली इंग्लिश, हम लोगों का जो भाषा है, जो मातृभाषा है हम लोगों की, जो मदर टंग है, वो इतनी इम्पोर्टेंट है हमारे लिए, बिकॉज हम लोग सबसे पहले शुरुआत में उसी में स्टोरीज सुनते हैं अपने पेरेंट्स से, अपनी मदर से। तो हमारी भाषा किस तरीके से इम्पोर्टेंट है, और जिस तरीके से हम स्टोरीज सिर्फ इंग्लिश में नहीं, आजकल के परिवेश में लिख सकते हैं, उस बारे में डॉक्टर व्यास हमको बताएंगे। डॉक्टर व्यास, आपका माइक।
अच्छा, आप सुन पा रहे हैं अभी? आवाज आ रही है मेरी आपको?
जी, अब आ रही है
जी। बड़ा सुखद लग रहा है आप सब लोग सबके साथ में, और मुझे लगता है कि नेशनल बुक ट्रस्ट इंडिया ने ये एक महत्वपूर्ण पहल इस रूप में की है कि हम यंग राइटर्स से जो है रूबरू हो पा रहे हैं, मुखातिब हो पा रहे हैं। सुधा मूर्ति जी को सुना, दीपा जी को सुना, और सुबीर रॉय जी को जो है उनको इलस्ट्रेट कैसे बनाते हैं और कैसे ओरिजिनल बनाया जाए, इस बारे में हम लोगों ने बहुत सारी जानकारी ली। मेरी शुरुआत, जैसे उन्होंने कहा था, पपेट की बात की थी उन्होंने कि पपेट के किस तरह से जो है इलस्ट्रेशन बनाए गए थे। हम लोगों को राजस्थान में, आपने नाम सुना होगा विजयदान देथा बिजी, बहुत बड़ा नाम उनका रहा है, और लोक कथाओं का उन्होंने एक प्रकार से पुनराविष्कार बिजी ने किया था। तो हम लोग बात पूछे की परंपरा राजस्थान में रही है कि बहुत सारे लोग जो है कहानियां सुनाते हैं, बहुत स्थानों पर पपेट शो होते हैं, और पपेट में उसके पीछे कहानियां जो है बताई जाती है। तो मुझे लगता है कि मेरी शुरुआत कुछ ऐसे ही लेखन की तरफ हुई और बच्चों के लिखने की तरफ। एक खास बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण बात को बताऊं आपको मैं, कि मैं जब चंपक में लिखता था, पहले नंदन में लिखता था, और बाल हंस और बाल भारती, इनमें भी मैंने बच्चों की कहानियां लिखी। एक कहानी जब मैंने लिखी शुरुआत में, तो चूंकि लोक कथाएं बहुत ज्यादा पढ़ते थे उस समय, और लोक कथाओं से प्रेरित होकर कहानी लिखी थी, जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस, ऐसी बहुत सारी कहावतें वो है उसमें। तो जब मैंने संपादक को भेजी, ये मैं शायद 9, 10, 11 साल का था उस समय में, और पहली कहानी मैंने लिखी थी उस समय। जब मैंने भेजी तो वहां से एक पत्र आया उनका वापस जो है, और उन्होंने लिखा कि इसको आप अपने हिसाब से लिखिए, इस कहानी को जो है, ये तो लोक कथा को आपने वैसा का वैसा लिख दिया उसको। और फिर मैंने उसको लिखा जिसकी लाठी उसकी कार, क्योंकि परिवेश बदल गया था और बहुत सारी चीजें बदल गई थी। तो मुझे लगता है कि लेखन में परिवेश की समझ जो है वो बहुत जरूरी होती है, और जो बाल लेखक हैं, बच्चों के लिए लिखने वाले लेखक हैं, उनके लिए मैं खास तौर से कहना चाहूंगा। एक मुपांसा की कथा मुझे खास तौर से याद आती है, मैं बचपन में पढ़ा करता था उस कथा के बारे में, कि दोस्तों इसके पास उनकी माँ लेके जाती है मुपांसा को, और कहती है कि मेरे बेटे को लिखना सीखना है। वो बहुत व्यस्त होते हैं, और बहुत ज्यादा व्यस्त होते हैं, तो वो बहुत सारी किताबों में से एक किताब उसको देते हैं कि ये पढ़ के आ जाएं, उसके बाद लिखना कुछ बताएंगे। और एक सप्ताह के बाद वापस मुपांसा की माँ उनको लेके जाती है वहां पर, और कहती है कि मेरे बच्चे ने, आपने जो किताब दी थी पढ़ ली है। बोले मैंने किताब दी थी, वो भूल चुके थे। बोले हाँ किताब दी थी, देखो कौन सी किताब है। किताब देखी तो पता लगा वो डिक्शनरी थी, और मुपांसा ने पूरी डिक्शनरी पढ़ ली थी, रट ली थी वहां पर। तो उनको लगा कि इसको बताया जा सकता है कि कैसे लिखा जाता है। तो उन्होंने कहा कि खिड़की के बाहर देखो क्या दिखाई देता है। उनका खिड़की के बाहर तो कुछ भी नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है। नहीं, गौर से देखो क्या दिखाई दे रहा है। बोले दूर एक जो है घर बना हुआ है वो दिखाई दे रहा है। अच्छा कुछ और देखो क्या दिखाई दे रहा है। बोले घर जो है उसके एक खिड़की है। अच्छा खिड़की के पास और क्या दिखाई? बोले एक पेड़ उगा हुआ है। पेड़ ही है केवल? नहीं, पेड़ पे कुछ पक्षी भी है। और क्या दिखाई दे रहा है? बोले पक्षी उड़ रहे हैं। अच्छा ठीक है, पक्षी उड़ रहे हैं, और देखो क्या दिखाई दे रहा है? तो बोले नीला आसमान है। अच्छा नीला आसमान है, और क्या चीजें हैं? और इस तरह से वो सारी चीजें बताते जाते हैं। और वो उसका कहने का तात्पर्य होता है कि हम देखना सीखना भी जरूरी है लिखने के लिए। एटमोस्फियर जो है, एनवायरमेंट जो है, उसको महसूस करना भी जरूरी है। और मुझे लगता है कि ये बात इसलिए भी जरूरी है, मुपान साहब सबको पता है कि बहुत बड़े लेखक के रूप में ख्यात हुए उस समय। चाहे कहानी लिखें, चाहे कविता लिखें, कुछ भी लिखें, उसके लिए आपकी अनुभूति जरूरी है, आपकी चेतना जरूरी है, संज्ञान आपका होना जरूरी है कि जो चीजें घटित हो रही है अपने आसपास में, उसको हम किस रूप में देखते हैं। मैं एक और एग्जाम्पल आपको मेरा बताता हूँ कि मुझे एक बार, क्योंकि पत्रकारिता से मेरा जुड़ाव रहा है, तो मुझे एक बार एक ऐसी जगह पे भेज दिया गया कि जहां पर शतरंज की ऐसी चेस चैंपियनशिप हो रही थी। और जब चेस चैंपियनशिप वहां पर हो रही थी तो मुझे शतरंज खेल का बिल्कुल भी ज्ञान नहीं था कि इसमें क्या सिद्धांत होता है, किस तरह से खेला जाता है, सह और मात कैसे होती है। लेकिन चूंकि लेखक हूं तो मैंने देखा कि बहुत गहरे से उस खेल को देखा मैंने, और बाद में मुझसे रहा नहीं गया और मैंने एक शब्द चित्र उसका लिखा था। थोड़ा सा मैं साझा करना चाहूंगा लेखकों से। मैंने लिखा कि शहर से दूर सितारों वाले होटल में अचानक कहीं कोई चेहरा दीप्त हो जाता है तो अचानक कोई चेहरा बुझ सा जाता है। दूसरे जो तमाम खेल होते हैं उसमें शोरोगुल होता है, हुटिंग होती है, लेकिन जिस खेल की मैं बात कर रहा हूं वहां इतना सन्नाटा है कि सुई भी अगर गिरती है फर्श पर तो उसकी आवाज साफ सुनाई देती है। घड़ी की टिक टिक के साथ सह और मात का खेल जारी है। जी हाँ, हम बात कर रहे हैं एशियाई जूनियर चेस चैंपियनशिप की। तो ये जो शब्द चित्र है आप देखिए, तो उसमें उस परिवेश को मैंने अनुभूत किया कि किस तरह से जो है वो परिवेश वहां पर है। और जरूरी नहीं है कि आपको पूरा उसका ज्ञान हो खेल का, लेकिन आप शब्द चित्र उकेर सकते हैं। तो मुझे लगता है कि लिखना जो है उसमें आपको उस परिवेश को अनुभूत करना आपको आना जरूरी है। राजस्थान में तो आप देखिए कहा जाता है कि बात में हुंकारो, फौज में नगारो। फौज अगर है तो उसमें नगाड़ा बजता है, और बात में हुंकारा देता है तो बात कहने में मजा आता है। बिज्जी की जो कहानी आप लोगों ने पढ़ी कि लोक कथाओं से जुड़ी हुई, लेकिन उनकी बड़ी कहने का जो अंदाज था उनका बहुत ही खूबसूरत था, उन कहानियों का कहने का अंदाज। और वो कहते हैं कि एक समय की बात थी, न राजा न रंक, भगवान भले दिन देवे, भले लोगों को भले दिन, बुरे लोगों को बुरे दिन। तो एक समय की बात है, और इस तरह से कहानियां शुरू होती है। और इसी तरह से मुझे लगता है कि परिवेश को अगर अनुभूत करें अपन तो बहुत सारी चीजें और आ सकती है। मुझे एक चीज और लगती है कि हम लोग बच्चों को इस रूप में भी सोचना चाहिए, जैसे पंचतंत्र की बात की सुधा मूर्ति जी ने, कथा सरित सागर की बात की उन्होंने, और महाभारत की दीपा जी ने बात की, और जो दूसरी जो तमाम चीजें जो है, मुझे लगता है इसके बारे में भी थोड़ा बहुत जानकारी होनी जरूरी है। हम लोग गूगल के सहारे बहुत से स्तरों पर रहते हैं कि कोई चीज होती गूगल की तरफ चले जाते हैं, लेकिन आप देखिए अमीश त्रिपाठी शिवा ट्रायोलॉजी लिखते हैं तो पूरा उसमें शिव का जो चरित्र उकेर कर रख देते हैं वहां पर जो है। तो मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं आपको कि जैसे वैज्ञानिक दृष्टिकोण हो जो होता है, वैज्ञानिक अपने आसपास का सारा नॉलेज रखते हैं कि क्या चीज हो रही है, क्या नया आविष्कार हो रहा है, चीजों को किस रूप में देखा जाए। तो मुझे लगता है लेखन के साथ भी यह बात बहुत जरूरी है कि हम जो हमारी परंपरा है लिखने की जो है उससे रूबरू रहें। बहुत से बाल पाठकों ने देखे होगी सहस्त्र रजनी चरित्र जो है, अलिफ लैला कभी दूरदर्शन में आया करता था, और उसी का नाम सहस्त्र रजनी चरित्र है। कहीं पर उसका नाम दास्ताने हजार रात भी है कि एक कहानी शुरुआत होती है, राजा को कहने से कहानी शुरू होती है, और उसके बाद कहानी में से कहानी निकलती जाती है, और बहुत सारी और कहानियां जो है, यही बात कथा सरित सागर के साथ भी लागू है, दूसरे जो तमाम चीजें जो साहित्य उसके साथ भी लागू है। तो उन कहानियों को कैसे गुना जाता है, कैसे परिवेश को महसूस किया जाता है, इस पर भी मुझे लगता है विचार करने की जरूरत है। मुझे अर्नेस्ट हेमिंग्वे का एक किस्सा बहुत खास तौर से याद आता है। वो बहुत उनका समुद्र और बुढ़ा आदमी बहुत फेमस जो उनकी जो है किताब रही है, समुद्र और बुढ़ा आदमी, और उसके बारे में वो बताते हैं, बहुत खूबसूरत सी बात बताते हैं। वो कहते हैं कि मैं एक दिन सोच रहा था कि नाव पे जाऊं और समुद्र में जाके मछलियां पकड़ूं, लेकिन ये सोच मेरे अंदर रह गई। मैं केवल चला जाता हूं बाहर और एक बुढ़ा आदमी मुझे मिलता है और मुझे एक कहानी सुनाता है, बुढ़ा आदमी अपने अनुभव सुनाता है। मैं घर आकर उसके अनुभव को लिखना शुरू कर देता हूं, लेकिन जब मैं लिखता हूं अनुभव को तो मुझे लगता है कि मैंने उस बुढ़े आदमी का अनुभव नहीं लिखा है, मैंने मेरी भी कहानी जो कुछ अनुभूत किया था उस बारे में, उस बुढ़े आदमी के बारे में, वो भी लिख दी है। और आप देखिए कि 200 बार ड्राफ्ट किया था उन्होंने उस किताब को, समुद्र और बुढ़ा आदमी को। तो ये जो मैं कहना चाह रहा हूं आपको कि हम बहुत सारी चीजें सुनते हैं बाहर जो है, बहुत सारी चीजें देखते हैं, लेकिन देखने के बाद में जो मन में घटित होता है उस पर भी मुझे लगता है विचार करने की जरूरत है कि आपकी संवेदना किस रूप में व्यंजित होती है, क्योंकि यही मौलिकता भी होती है। मैं आपको बता, अगर आपने वही चीज ली, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि शुरुआत में मैंने इस तरह से कहानियां लिखी लोक कथाओं वाली जो है, लेकिन बाद में मुझे लगा गया कि उन लोक कथाओं को आप अपने रूप में भी ढाल सकते हैं, परिवेश के रूप में उसको रूपांतरित कर सकते हैं। तो जैसे आनंद कुमार स्वामी कहते हैं कि आर्ट इज ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, कलाएं जो है रूपांतरण है, और मुझे लगता है लेखन भी रूपांतरण है किसी दूसरे के अनुभव का, किसी दूसरे के जीवन का। जो कुछ हम पढ़ते हैं किताबों को, अगर हम पढ़ने के बाद में हम अपने रूप में उसको लिखना शुरू करते हैं तो वो अपने अनुभव हो जाते हैं, हमारे अपने अनुभव हो जाते हैं, और वो जो लिखा हुआ है वो बहुत आगे तक जाता है और लोग उसको मुझे लगता है कि पसंद भी करते हैं। अमृतलाल विगड़ जी का नाम आप लोगों ने सुना होगा कि बहुत ही बड़े यात्रा वृतांतकार रहे हैं वो, और उन्होंने सौंदर्य की नदी नर्मदा, तीरे तीरे नर्मदा, ऐसे यात्रा वृतांत लिखे उनके। एक खूबसूरत सा आप देखिए वाक्य कैसा लिखते हैं, चीजों को कैसे लिखा जाता है उनका। देखिए वो कहते हैं कि मैं एक पहाड़ी के पास पहुंचता हूँ, जंगल में जो है पहाड़ी के पास में, और जब पहाड़ी के पास पहुंचता हूं तो मुझे लगता है कि खेतों पर पहाड़ी को इस तरह से रखा हुआ है जैसे पेपर वेट रखा हुआ है, कि कहीं बहुत अधिक हवा आए तो खेत उड़ नहीं जाए, तो इसलिए पहाड़ी पेपर वेट की तरफ वहां पर रखी हुई है। ये जो व्यंजना है, मुझे लगता है लिखने में इसी रूप में सोच की जरूरत होती है कि हम चांद को महसूस करें, तारों को महसूस करें, रात के अंधकार को महसूस करें, दिन के उजास को अलग रूप में देखें, तो आप देखिए बहुत सारी चीजें बनती चली जाती है। अनुभवों का दायरा इस रूप में भी मुझे लगता है बढ़ता है कि जितना आप पढ़ते हैं, जितना चीजों को देखते हैं, जितने बाहर के परिवेश रूबरू होंगे, आपके अंदर का ज्ञान और अधिक बढ़ता चला जाएगा। आप देखिए कि राजा रवि वर्मा की पेंटिंग्स बहुत फेमस रही है। वो कहते हैं राजा रवि वर्मा के जो रंग थे बहुत चमत्कृत करने वाले थे। ऑयल पेंटिंग उस समय में उन्होंने अपनाई थी राजा रवि वर्मा ने। और रवि वर्मा के बारे में कहा जाता है कि वो कहते हैं कि मैं बिल्कुल भोर को 4 बजे उठा करता था। ये वह समय होता था जब अंधकार जा रहा होता था और प्रकाश का आगमन हो रहा होता था, तो मैंने रंग वहां से चुरा ली। रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर के बारे में देखिए आपकी 67 की एज में उन्होंने चित्रकला की ओर वो प्रवृत्त हुए, चित्रकला बनाना उन्होंने प्रारंभ की, जबकि तब तक उनको गीतांजलि पे नोबेल पुरस्कार मिल चुका था। तब तक उनका संगीत, रविंद्र संगीत बहुत फेमस हो चुका था। उनके तासीर देश जैसे नाट्य जो प्रस्तुतियां वो भी खूब मंचित हो चुकी थी। लेकिन आप देखिए 67 की एज में रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर चित्रकला की ओर प्रवृत्त होते हैं और वो कहते हैं कि मेरे जीवन की भोर गीतों से हुई थी, चाहता हूं सांझ रंग भरी हो जाए। तो ये जो कहने की जो बात है जो है, मुझे लगता है कि लेखन में इसको प्रयोजन की जरूरत है। मेरी एक किताब बुद्धि से विजय, ये बच्चों की किताब बहुत पहले जब मैंने लिखना शुरू की थी, ये आई थी बुद्धि से विजय। और इसमें इस तरह की कहानियां हैं जो मैं सुना करता था, लेकिन सुनने के बाद मेरे मन में बहुत सारी चीजें और घटित होने लग गई। जैसे बिल्ली को एक बार मैंने देखा घर में, और वो बिल्ली जो है कई दिनों तक कुछ चीजें इकट्ठी करके रह रही थी, पिल्ले हो गए उसके वहां पर जो है। तो हमने देखा कि उस बिल्ली का जीवन कैसे व्यतीत होता है। ऐसी एक कहानी मैंने सुनी, पढ़ी कि चूहे जो है खा जाते हैं बहुत सारी जो है कागज वागज जितनी भी चीजें होती है। तो कहानी बड़ी खूबसूरत सी है कि सारे चूहे इकट्ठे हुए कि ये बच्चे पढ़ाई करते हैं, तो हम लोगों को भी जो है पढ़ाई करनी चाहिए, क्योंकि पढ़ाई करने से आदमी बड़ा बनता है, जीवन उसका संवर जाता है। और वो चूहे सारे इकट्ठे होते हैं तो क्या किया जाए, तो सारी किताबें चुरा चुरा के ले आते हैं बच्चों की जो है, और लाने के बाद उनको ये नहीं आता, पढ़ना नहीं आता, तो खा जाते हैं। कहते हैं तब से चूहे जो है किताबें खाने लग गए और किताबों को जो है वो गप कर जाते हैं, ये सोच करके शायद इससे पढ़ना आ जाएगा। तो बच्चों की कहानियां मुझे लगता है इसी तरह से एक रूपाकार ले लेती है, रूप ले लेती है उसमें जो है। तो जितना हम पढ़ेंगे मुझे लगता है उतना ही अपने आप को बुनना शुरू कर देंगे, गुनना शुरू कर देंगे। संगीत को आप सुनिए, नृत्य को आप देखिए, चित्रकला में म्यूजियम आप जाइए, बहुत सारी चीजें आपको मिलेगी उनके पीछे की जो है। यक्षिणी की प्रतिमा है, आप देखिए बिहार म्यूजियम में जो है, वो बहुत ही खूबसूरत प्रतिमा है कि उसके पीछे की कहानी क्या है, ये जानने का मुझे लगता है प्रयास किया जाना चाहिए। संगीत में बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, उनको किस तरह से हम लोग सुनते हैं और कैसे शास्त्रीय संगीत जो है वो सुंदर लगता है एक आलाप के बाद में जो है, राग की जिस तरह से बढ़त होती है। तो मुझे लगता है लेखन में भी इसी तरह से बढ़त होती है कि शुरुआत में आपको, जैसे आप देखिए मैंने एक लिखी थी किताब ऐसे बरसते हैं बादल, ये जो किताब है राज्य संदर्भ केंद्र के सहयोग से लिखी गई थी। और ऐसा कहा जाता है कि आपको अगर टास्क दे दिया जाए तो शायद लिखा नहीं जाता है, लेकिन मेरी अनुभूतियां थोड़ी अलग तरह की। एक किताब मेरी नेशनल बुक ट्रस्ट इंडिया से आई है, सुर जो सजे, फिल्मी गीतों के पीछे की कहानी उन पर है, और मैंने फिल्म पत्रकारिता से शुरुआत की थी। एक नर्मदेहर मेरे यात्रा वृतांत नेशनल बुक ट्रस्ट इंडिया से प्रकाशित है, कश्मीर से कन्याकुमारी है। वो सब चीजें कैसे आती है आप देखिए उसमें जो है। तो वो मैं बता रहा था, कैसे बरसते बादल टास्क जब मुझे मिला तो हम लोग एक वर्कशॉप में गए वहां पर, कि एक लेखक कार्यशाला थी, राष्ट्रीय लेखक कार्यशाला, और ये कहा गया था सभी को कि कुछ न कुछ अलग लिख के जो है प्रस्तुत करना है। तो मेरे जैसे व्यक्ति, चूंकि हम लोग नए नए लेखक थे उस समय, तो हमने कहा कि लिखा तो मूड से जाता है, कोई ऐसे थोड़ी जाता है, लेकिन जब जब वो टास्क दिया, पूरे दिन आ गए, 4 दिन हो गए पूरे। एक दिन बारिश होने लग गई, और बारिश जब होने लगी तो मैंने बारिश की बूंदों को अनुभूत किया, वो जो टप टप गिर रही थी बूंदें। और मुझे लगा कि बारिश जो होती है उसके पीछे वैज्ञानिक कारण होता है। लेकिन हम लोग गाँव में और में ये देखा करते हैं कि इंद्र की पूजा करते हैं, भगवान की पूजा अर्चना करते हैं, तब बारिश होती है। तो उसी को लेकर एक कहानी मैंने लिखी, कैसे बरसते हैं बादल, कि बादल बरसने के पीछे वैज्ञानिक कारण क्या होते हैं, उसकी पूरी कहानी जो है, किस तरह से एक पात्र जो होता है खेत से आ रहे होते हैं और बारिश उस गांव में होती नहीं है, तो वो मन्नत करते हैं किसी तरह से बारिश हो जाए, और अंततः जो है वो बारिश की भी बात होती है, और साथ साथ वो बताता था पात्र कि बारिश जो इस तरह से जब भाप बन के पानी उठता है तो बारिश हुआ करती है। तो उसका वैज्ञानिक कारण भी जो है उसमें आ जाता है, और पूरी कहानी के रूप में ये किताब जो है ऐसे बरसते बादल लिखी गई थी। तो इस तरह से बहुत सारी चीजें और जो मुझे लगता है कि निरंतर लिखी जाती है। और मैं बच्चों से एक बात और साझा करना चाहता हूँ कि दिमाग हमारा पैराशूट की तरह होता है। पैराशूट कब काम करता है? जब खुल जाता है। तो मुझे लगता है लिखने के लिए भी इस बात की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत पड़ती है कि हम लोग अपने दिमाग को खुला रखें, जो कुछ देखें उसको अनुभूत करें, और जितना पढ़ेंगे उतना ही आपको नए नए शब्दों से साक्षात आपका होगा। और आप देखिए, कहानियां वही होती है, लेकिन स्थान विशेष के हिसाब से वो कहानियां बदल जाती है। चाहे सहस्त्र रजनी चरित्र हो, पंचतंत्र की कहानियां हो, या महाभारत की कहानी हो, या रामायण की कहानी हो, जितनी भी कहानियां हैं उन सब के पीछे जो है मूल बात वही है कि एक कोई चीज गढ़ी जाती है शब्दों से जो है, और उसको फिर धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ाया जाता है। तो मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ कि हम शब्द चित्र की तरफ शुरुआत में मुड़े। हमारे बीकानेर में रमते हुआ करते थे लोक नाट्य जो है, तो उसमें पद्यमय संवाद हुआ करते थे। हम सुनते थे उन पद्य के संवाद को, और सुनने के बाद धीरे धीरे पता नहीं कैसे कविता में लिखने लग गया था, कैसे बच्चों की कहानियां जो है जहन में आने लग गई थी। बहुत सारी कहानियां आई, बहुत सारी कहानियां लिखी गई। तो मुझे लगता है कि उसमें परिवेश आपकी मदद करता है कि किस तरह से परिवेश से हम बहुत सारी चीजें सीख कर शब्दों में उसको जो पिरो सकते हैं। मुझे लगता है कि अगर बोलना मेरा जारी रहा तो शायद पता नहीं उसका छोर मैं कहाँ पा नहीं पाऊंगा कि कैसे बहे। सुधा मूर्ति जी ने बहुत अच्छी बातें कही। सुबीर रॉय जी ने जो है इलस्ट्रेशन की बहुत सारी चीजें बताई। खास बात बताई उन्होंने कि ओरिजिनलिटी रहनी चाहिए। हम लोग पढ़ें, चीजें देखें, लेकिन इस बात का जरूर ध्यान रखें कि शब्द सजगता भी रहे। ये बात मैं इसलिए भी कह रहा हूं आप लोगों से कि बहुतेरी बार हम अच्छे शब्द प्रयोग करने के चक्कर में जो है भूल जाते हैं कि पहले हमने कोई अलग बात लिखी थी, बाद में अलग बात लिख रहे हैं। अच्छे शब्दों का इस्तेमाल किया जाना चाहिए, हमारे लेखन में आने चाहिए, लेकिन जब शब्दों का इस्तेमाल करें तो इस बात की सजगता भी रहनी चाहिए कि पहले हमने क्या बात कही है। जब मैं बात ये कहता हूँ हेमिंगवे 200 बार लिखने के बाद में किताब को कंप्लीट करते हैं, तो मुझे ये भी लगता है कि हम जो कुछ भी लिखा जाए, कहानी भी लिखी जाए बच्चों की, अगर उसको 3-4 बार जांच लेंगे तो हर बार वो एक अलग रूप में आपके सामने आएगी, परिष्कृत बनती चली जाएगी। आप सुनाइए, अपने मम्मी पापा को सुनाइए कहानियां जो है, अपने फ्रेंड्स को सुनाइए कहानियां, उसमें भी सुधार होता है। तो मुझे लगता है कि उसमें आपकी ओरिजिनलिटी भी बनी रहेगी, आपकी मौलिकता बनी रहेगी। लेकिन खास बात मैं ये जरूर कहना चाहूंगा कि अपने परिवेश से आप सदा जुड़े रहें। यह नहीं कि हम विदेशी साहित्य पढ़ रहे हैं तो केवल विदेशी गंध ही जो है अपने लिखने में, सॉन्ग महक जो उसमें आती रहे। हमारा परिवेश हमें हमारी जड़ों से जोड़े रखता है, हमारी जीवंतता को बनाए रखता है। तो मुझे लगता है कि इन सब की भी चीजें जरूरी है। क्योंकि आप देखिए, जब महाभारत लिखी गई तो महाभारत की पूरी एक कथा जो है गुंजरी थी, और उसके बाद में वेद व्यास को ये लगा कि महाभारत जो है लिखने से मुझे संतुष्टि नहीं हुई है, तो फिर भागवत का पारायण हुआ था, और उसमें कृष्ण की बिल्कुल अलग रूप में लीलाएं जो है हमारे समक्ष उभर कर सामने आती है। महाभारत में कृष्ण अलग होते हैं, कर्म का संदेश देते हैं, और बाद में जो है वो कृष्ण जो है भागवत में जो है उनका एक अलौकिक स्वरूप उभर कर सामने आता है। तो मैं यही बात सब से साझा करना चाहता हूँ कि हम लोग अगर परिवेश की जीवंतता से जुड़े रहेंगे तो हमारा लेखन मौलिक रहेगा, और बहुत कुछ और चीजें जो है हमारे लेखन के साथ जुड़ती चली जाएगी। मैंने जैसा कि कहा था कि युवराज जी जो डायरेक्टर हैं एनबीटी के, उन्होंने बड़ी अच्छी पहल की है कि इस तरह की संवाद की एक शुरुआत हुई है, और मुझे लगता है इस तरह के संवाद की जरूरत भी है। क्योंकि अगर लेखक आपस में संवाद करते हैं, जो नए लेखक है वो अगर सीखने के लिए उनको सुनते हैं, उनके अनुभवों से साझा होते हैं, तो एक नया आकाश भी आने वाले समय में बन सकता है। और मुझे लगता है लिखने के लिए इस तरह के आकाश की जरूरत होती है। बहुत बहुत आभार कि नेशनल बुक ट्रस्ट इंडिया ने मुझे स्मरण किया, याद किया अपनी बात रखने के लिए, और आप सभी का बहुत बहुत आभार।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर व्यास। आपने बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट बात हम लोगों को बताई। सबसे जो कुछ चीज़ें मैं समझ पाई, एक तो ये कि बच्चों को लिखते हुए अपना माइंड हमेशा ओपन, पैराशूट की तरह ओपन रखना चाहिए। और दूसरा वो परसेप्शन की बात बहुत अच्छी आपने बताई, कैसे परसीव करना है एक पर्टिकुलर आइडिया को या एक चीज को, और उसको अपने लिखने में अपने अनुभव की तरह कैसे डालना है, वो ओरिजिनलिटी है। और वही लेखक को एक अलग बनाता है, एक लेखक को दूसरे लेखक से अलग बनाता है। और किस तरह हमें अपने परिवेश में रहकर लिखना चाहिए, किस तरह वो हमारी चीज़ों में आना चाहिए। मुझे लगता है ये चीज़ें हम लोगों को, और सब चाइल्ड ऑथर्स जो इस समय हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, वो इस चीज़ को सीखेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। अब मैं चाइल्ड ऑथर्स को बोलती, नाउ आई विल इंट्रोड्यूस ऑल द चाइल्ड ऑथर्स एंड एक एक करके वो बताएंगे। सबसे पहले मैं ये बोलना चाहूंगी कि हमारे पास इस समय सबसे छोटा से लेकर सबसे बड़े, इस समय फ्रॉम द एज ऑफ 7 to the age of 15 we have child authors, 6 child authors here with us. And before I start telling about them, it's like Lewis Carroll said in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland that sometimes I've believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. And I think we are here looking at the impossible things which we thought would be. But here they are, all our child authors. तो सबसे पहले हमारे पास है अयान गोगोई गोहाई. He's the youngest, age 7. There he is, the cute little boy. and he's from Assam, and he started writing at the age of 4. And he has written 2 books. One is called Honeycomb and one is Bumblebee. And in the book Bumblebee, he has himself uh, designed the cover. The cover is of a bee, and there are some flowers and things there which he has himself shot. He has taken the picture, given the cover of the book, and to depict the Indian national flag, which in itself is interesting to see. So I think let us tell Ayan, uh, go ahead and let us know about your journey, how you started writing, and what do you think about. Ayan? Yes.
Hi, I'm Ayan Gopi. It's a great honor to be here with the National Book Trust family, my favorite authors, illustrators, and friends. I was born in Assam and I was brought up in many places in India. My parents travel a lot. They take me wherever they go. They took me to the mountains, snow, open fields, and wherever I went, I found a story waiting to be told. Many people made fun of me because I was unable to talk until the age of 3. During those times, I expressed my thoughts through paintings. I grew up with my grandparents in the beautiful farm. They planted lots of fruit trees and vegetables, and they give away everything to the people, animals, birds, insects for free. There I learned the joy of giving. My grandmother lost her parents and grandparents when she was very little. She struggled her way up to become what she is today. My grandparents adopted and sponsored the education of many children, silently, without camera or limelight. I also want to be of great use to humanity and Mother Nature. Whatever I write, do or say, is a manifestation of my love for Mother Nature. The money I get from my books and paintings, I use that to plant animals and birds. My papa always sees me that writing is a sadhana, just like yoga, meditation, and music. I do not just read books, but this whole world around me. I do not write to become famous. I write because I have to write, and I love to write. My mother is fighting with cancer. From her, I learned that life is a precious and beautiful gift. That's why we should enjoy every moment to the fullest. It doesn't matter if someone is small or big. No one is above us, no one is below us. We all are equal, but unique. We all have different abilities, and we can use those abilities to make this world better.
Thank you, Ayan. That is so wonderful. See, Sudha ma'am is clapping for you. It's wonderful to hear how Ayan has started writing by going back to Mother Nature. And that's how he gets his inspiration to write. That is wonderful. At the age of 7, saying such sane words compels us to listen and understand more. Thank you, Ayan. Now I'll go to my second child author, that is Sarah Rose. Sarah is 10 years old and she loves Komodo dragons, reptiles. She likes all scary things. So she has written one book. It's called A Very Naughty Dragon, along with Paro Anand. She is co-authored with her. And so, Sarah, tell us more about how you started writing, what is your interest in writing, and about this book also.
So can you hear me?
We can
Okay,
hear you.
so hello everyone. My name is Sarah Rose and I am 10 years old. I study in Pathway School, Noida, and I am currently in grade 6. As you know, I have co-authored a book named A Very Naughty Dragon with eminent author Paro Anand. It was commissioned by Shantanu Dattagupta, publisher from Scholastic India. A Very Naughty Dragon has 3 stories. It is based in Indonesia and it is about a Komodo dragon named Draco. The first story is about Draco wanting to become a great hunter like his father. But rude squirrels sure don't make it easy. The second story is about Draco wanting to climb trees. But this time, rude macaques don't make it easy. The third story is about a flood which comes in and a girl named Lavender Blue is in the flood. Draco saves her by pulling her out of the water and she saved him from being killed by the locals. I have co-authored this book because I have always wondered what it was like to write a story, a book, and Paro Anand had also suggested it when she was launching her new book, A Very Naughty Bear. She asked me what the topic would be and I immediately said Komodo dragons. And collaborating to write this book. And this was her first time collaborating with a child to write a book. Thank you.
That's Sudha Murthy, ma'am. Clapping for all child authors. It's wonderful. Wonderful. Sarah, it's wonderful to know that as a child of 10 years old, you are not scared of Komodo dragons. That in itself is quite heartening. And that gives me, we wonder what your next topic would be. If Komodo dragons don't scare you, I'm sure nothing will scare you. Wonderful. So now I move on to the third child author. His name is Dhruvaditya Tiwari. Dhruvaditya is 11 years old and he authored his first book, The Hiding, when he was 8 years old. And so Dhruvaditya, we can't see you. Dhruvaditya, your video. Yes, yes. So tell us about how you started writing, what inspired you, and also about this book.
Ma'am, I had started writing when I was around 7 and in third class. Ma'am, I had started doing creative writing because my mother told me that my writing was very, very bad. So I started doing creative writing, and fortunately, because my mother was an author and her mind is also very creative, so I got her talents and I made a story. And finally, when I was in fourth or fifth class, when I was 8 years old, my mother compiled the book and helped me for the spellings and errors. Then she thought, "Arey yaar, ye to story ban gayi." And she said like that, and then Hina Didi, my mother's friend, said that I should publish it book. So it became a novel, and then my whole world like tipped upside down. Then my brother came And then, ma'am, I was very, very happy that I had written another story, and my mother said to continue it. And she said that the story I had written was from inside my heart, and she said that she never knew that I could love nature so much. Ma'am, the story I have written, The Hiding, is about a boy who goes on an adventure and he finds a crystal that makes a 3D universe on its own inside a box. And ma'am, it's so, ma'am, the earth that is made by the crystal is all nature. There are no humans and there are no mammals, only butterflies, only beautiful things exist on that planet. And ma'am, when he comes out, he finds his father who was dead idly, but from the power of the crystal, the god crystal, he wakes up his father. Ma'am, so I basically, ma'am, I learned this all from my mother because she is very spiritual. My mother is very spiritual and she takes many things emotionally. So I put that all in the book, and so emotion and nature, I combined them.
Wonderful.
Very good, very good.
This is wonderful, Aditya. First, I think all children actually connecting to nature and writing is what all our eminent authors have been talking about, and children actually are incorporating that. In itself, it's a wonder. And Dhruvaditya, your mother also receives, deserves a clapping from all of us to actually tell you that you're writing, and then she's encouraged you. So it's wonderful. Now I go to the next child, Ayan Kapadia. Ayan is 12 years old and he's from Mumbai. He wrote his book only in 3 days at the age of 9 years. And his book is called Maverick's Marvelous Adventures. It's very good. It's all magic and all. So, Ayan, tell us about how you started writing, who inspired you, and about this book as well.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Ayan Kapadia. I'm 12 years old. So I had written a book when I was 9 years old, and I was awarded as the youngest writer in India by a Young Achiever India Book of Records, and the fastest writer in Asia by India Book of Records and Asia Book of Records. So I actually used to love writing since I was young. I kept on writing short stories, thinking that one day this will go like a top hit. So one day I just got a school assignment by my library teacher, and she told me that you need to write a story. So like as a part of our assignment, and like there were different categories, and I was fanatic about adventure and fantasy. I was like fanatic about magic. So I used to love Harry Potter at that time as well. So I started writing a book, Maverick's Marvelous Adventure. It's actually for private circulation. So there, it was about this child who wanted to be like his father, who was a great magician, but he didn't listen to his father's orders, and he did a spell that led him. He had like a pet cat called Daisy, who was a feline ninja warrior cat. And after he did casted that spell, it backfired on him and everything. Like he started spinning around, and he went into this isolate and remote island. So he was stuck out there, and then it's all about how he evades and escapes the island, and who all he meets out there. He makes a friend, and how he does it. I don't want to spoil the story yet, so I'll just end it here. And after that, I actually continue writing one more book, and this one is actually available on Amazon. So you can even check it out on my website, ayankapadia.com. It's called Maverick's Encounter with the Pirates. So this is a continuation of the book where the friend he meets in the first book is actually kidnapped by a vicious pirate, and how he like his he and his cat and his dad, how they go and save him, and it's full of adventure, action, and it'll keep you hooked up till the end. So I was inspired writing by, of course, my cousin brother Anuj Shah. He's also a writer, and I actually shared the same birthday as William Shakespeare that motivated me drastically. And yeah, so I was inspired by them, and in support, my parents have been like a pillar of support towards me, and so is my creative writing teacher who teaches me like all these excellent and like vocab, which is not unbelievable. So you can get this book on Amazon and at my website. And yeah, thank you, and thank you, NBT, for giving me this wonderful opportunity for speaking here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayan. And this is my interest, the genre interest, the magic and the mystery and all. So I think we will all check out this book, and it's available on Amazon, as you say. So I think that makes it easier for everyone. Wonderful. And so I come to Akshat Gupta. So Akshat is 12 years old, and Akshat is an international record holder for being the youngest to publish maximum books in a year. He received the global recognition at World Records Forum in November 2017. And he has written lots of books. I have few to name here. Arya the Courageous Boy, Train of Trins, Zulebi, Good Things in Small Packs, and there are more. So Akshat, tell us about your journey as a writer, how you started writing, and about your books.
Hey all, I'm Yashi Tripati, a 12-year-old fun-loving dreamer. I got global recognition at the World Records Forum in November 2017 and humbled and published author of 11 pieces of my own creativity. The first and the foremost title being Arya the Courageous Boy, followed by the first series titled Bandhu Bandeshwar in Kelala, which even now has its sequel, Bandhu Bandeshwar in Sebanchal. It is a fun little story of about a gang of monkey friends who get into different adventures, sometimes to help their community overcome their problems, and even sometimes to meet friends and just have fun. With God giving more mind to my pen, I came with my cherished collection of short stories, good things in small bags. Then next in line is Zulebi, a very sweet and tasty tale of our favorite jalebi, and I'm sure you all love it too. Next in line is Nicholas. It's about the mystery of our own dear Santa and how he came out to be so important. And there's a festival about him also. Next in line is the Time of Trims. Now this is a collection of stories dealing with how to actually deal with the bad times in our life, how we should overcome those times. And next in line comes when Maruti give me all the answers. This is actually a magical and a miraculous tale of the wonders of the Satyuga. It's actually an attempt to understand the miracles of that time and correlate and understand it with the help of simple logic and even modern day science. Some of the latest published books are The Adventures of Pami, a very special bond or friendship, as you may call it. Next is Cheet Mohana. It's a delicious tale of an very tasty delicacy, and I'm sure after reading this book, your mouth will start watering. Last but not the least is is the Truth Island and the Bacterians. This is a very special attempt to actually connect stories with studies and academics, making it more easier to learn the concepts of science in a more easier, better, and interactive manner. My taste with books started at a very early age. I can remember those times when I used to sit with a book while having breakfast, while having lunch, and also at the dinner table, and even before going to sleep. Being an avid reader, I have been passionately able to give wings to my words under the guidance of my mentors and teachers and their promotion. Now, it has been a very satisfying journey. It has been a very satisfying journey going to visiting different literature festivals, going to different child writer festivals. Now, going to for storytelling in various schools. The most cherished one being the storytelling done at the MBCN school. This is or in Noida. This is a school for children with special needs. Now the warmth and the praise I got there is still fresh in my mind. In fact, I enjoy my writing part. I do not think or enjoy anything beyond of that. Proceed with the sale of my books. Go to different NGO schools. Now, at last, friends, I would like to leave you with the fact I have been munching for a few days at which I have been munching for a few days now. We can work together to build positive ideas. For example, the being bullied led to the invention of the bulb, and study pressure led to the invention of a pressure cooker. Now, location changes just to stories. Jokes apart, I would wish that we all grow together in changing our adversities into our advantages. I would really want to connect with you all every time, anytime, anywhere, to YouTube and Facebook too. Do feel free. Now, at last, I would like to thank the National Book Trust for giving us such a wonderful proposal. It is like a dream come true for me to hear inspirational words from Sudhamurthy ma'am, and the stories behind my stories by Deepa ma'am, and listening to Rajesh sir and learning about illustrations from Subir sir. It was a very amazing experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Akshat. You make thank you, Akshat. You make writing seem so easy. The way you are saying of all the books that you have written and the way you have written, it suddenly sounds so very easy. I think that encourages us as well. That if a child can do it, yes, we can do it too. So good. Congratulations to you. And lastly, we come to Yashi Tripati. Yashi, I can see your video. Please switch on your video. Yeah. So Yashi is 15 years old. She loves reading books, and her favorite author is John Green. And she has written a book called In That Hour of Despondency, which I thought was quite a title for a 15-year-old. So tell us about the book and also how you started writing, Yashi.
Hello, my name is Yashi Tripati. I'm 15 years old. I am from Lucknow. I study in class 11 in City Montessori School. I love writing, reading, painting, singing, and playing the piano. I started writing when I was 9 years old. There was a Kavi Sammelan organized in my colony, and I wanted to be a part of it. That was the time when I wrote my first poem. After that, I spent a summer with my cousin Anushka in Delhi. She inspired me to write short stories. She is the reason I got into fiction writing, and I owe a lot to her. A year later, I had completed my first novel, although that book isn't the one I sent out for publishing. It has been quite of a journey since then. After so many years of writing, I find inspiration in the weirdest of places. An interesting word might give birth to a story idea, or a strange dream might inspire me to write a book about it. My book, In That Hour of Despondency, was published when I was in class 8. It is a murder mystery set in America, which follows the adventures of Kester Swan after his best friend, Janet Wolfram, meets her demise at the hands of a stranger. The job of finding out who harmed her falls upon Kester. The book explores the trials and tribulations Kester experiences as he solves the mystery of Janet's death. It also explores the meaning of friendship and grief. Since then, I have written many other books, but at the moment, I'm taking my time with them and not sending them out for publishing. I have experimented with different genres, and I'm currently working on a young adult contemporary novel. One day, I hope to be able to work full time as an author. I'm inspired by all of you, and I'm eternally grateful to be here. Thank you for giving me the chance to be here. I'm honored and cannot express my gratitude in words.
Thank you, Yashi. You encourage us. And it's nice to know that every child author has been encouraged by their parents, sisters, brothers, cousins. And I guess as adults, the reading that we tell children to do is what makes them writers as well. Now,
can I take the questions, please? Because
yes,
I have one more Zoom.
Yes,
That's
yes.
it.
So I've come to the last session wherein this is an interactive session where children want to ask questions. So first of all, I would ask Sarah. You wanted to ask Sudha ma'am a question. So go ahead. Sarah?
Yeah. Yes, Sarah.
So, yeah, my
Yeah. Tell me.
the book which you have written, Gopi Diaries, what inspired you to write that?
Gopi himself. Gopi is my dog, and he's not here. Otherwise, I'd have showed him now. I thought for a minute, we look at the dog and say, okay, dog barks. But Gopi looks at us and he says, I talk, and maybe human beings bark. He may think that way, no? So I became Gopi, and I wrote Gopi's story. And there are three parts in that. The second part is going to come this year again. Gopi finds love. Second one. Did you like, Sarah, that book?
Yes, ma'am, I very much.
Okay,
I'm
many
very
children.
excited for the next book to come.
Of course, of course. And Gopi has become big now. Otherwise, I would have showed you. He is now almost 2 years old now. He'll be 2 years old. Yeah. It's a true story, by the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It is a true story. Yes. Yes, sir. Sarah, this is interesting to note. It's a true story. And ma'am, we look forward to the second part that will come. Then Ayan Kapadia wanted to ask a question to Sudha Murthy, ma'am.
Yeah. So, children, you should excuse me because I have one more Zoom, so I will take all my questions and I will leave.
Yes. Of
And
course.
other
I'll,
Deepa
yes.
ji, Subir ji, please don't mind
Thank
it.
you.
Okay,
Thank you.
because
Thank you.
I have to run a foundation also. And Rajesh Vyas ji, please excuse me because I am running the COVID hospital, so that's the reason I have a Zoom.
So I'll just the three children who wanted to ask.
Yeah, no problem. I will ask and then I will.
Yeah.
Tell
So
me,
Ayan
beta.
Kapadia, you wanted to ask a question. Please do ask, madam.
Who is
Yeah,
that?
so Murthy, ma'am.
Yeah, beta.
So, when you started writing, you said that there was trouble, there was no light, there were many adversities that came in your career and of writing. So, what was the thing that encouraged you and made you overcome these adversities?
See, adversities are they do come in life, but you have to learn. It is like surfing, You go to sea and you want to surf, but you should know the art of surfing. When the wave goes up, you go, and one after another waves will come. Similarly, in life, difficulties come one after another. You should not get scared. Once you get scared, then you can't do anything in life. What made me to write is like Akshat Gupta told, it's like I think of my mind like a pot with the milk on a stove. When it starts boiling, then the milk comes up and falls. Similarly, my ideas come one after another, then only I will write. I won't write to please somebody. I won't write to make, to get a name. I write because when writing makes me, when my ideas or my emotions cannot be controlled, it overflows, then only I will write. And I like writings that, like one of you told, it's like a meditation. It is 100% concentration, and joy of writing makes me extremely happy. That is the idea, and I enjoy writing. So when I had any difficulties, I always say, so what? You have lost the battle, but you will win the war. Let me not become timid. Let me face it, overcome that, and do everything. And like ma'am told Deepaji, you have to accept rejection. Many times, earlier stages, my books were rejected, but I keep on writing and sending. And once you have a strong hold in the market, then people will be after you. Write good stuff which makes you happy. Don't worry about publishing. If your book is good, publishers will be after you. If you are after publishers, okay, somebody should publish, then the book will never have a weight. Write something which is good, which makes you happy, which has a content. Very important is which has a content, and people will be after you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. And finally, I think Akshat Gupta had a question for madam. Akshat, you can ask your question.
Tell me, beta. How old are you, Akshat?
मैम 12 साल का
12 साल. Okay. And where do you live?
मैम नोएडा.
Noida. Okay. Tell me the question.
मैं सुधा मूर्ति जी आपसे यह प्रश्न पूछना चाहता हूँ कि जो आपने डॉक्टर नाम की एक कहानी लिखी है, आपने एक ऐसे मटके का उल्लेख किया है जिसका पानी पीने से सारे मरीजों की जो परेशानियां होती हैं वे दूर हो जाती हैं. आपको ऐसे मटके का आइडिया कहाँ से आया? कितना अच्छा ऐसा मटका COVID-19 के लिए भी आ जाता है.
But I'm a creative writer, I'm a creative writer. I was just thinking, what happened? My father was a doctor. My father was a doctor. And my dad used to tell me, please, better really believe when you do sauda, like, we're in a village, we're not in a big city. When you do sauda with the patient, like, you give money, then only I will treat. Then somehow he said, my treatment will not be useful. So always as a doctor, I want to treat the patient. In case they give money, it is well and good. If they don't give, still it is okay. दुआ हुआ है ना, उनके दुआएं मिलता है. That may be the one of the reasons it was in my mind that when I wrote doctor, that he gave, innocently he gave water, the patient was cured. And when he sold that to a king, with 100 gold coin, it disappeared. It has got deep in my brain. So when I write stories, I do get good royalty. Probably I'm India's #1 in terms of royalty for children section. But that royalty, even 1 rupee up to this day, I don't use it. Because I believe, this is again ingrained in my brain, writing is a great art. It's a great art. It is Goddess Saraswati has put her hand on my head. I believe in it. Okay, there is no logic in that. I believe Saraswati Goddess has put, Ma Saraswati has put her hand on my head. I cannot use this royalty. It is not because I'm well off. When I was not well off also, when I was not rich, even the 1500 rupees what I used to get royalty was a big sum. But that time also I said, no, it has to go to poor students because God is kind to me, Goddess is kind to me. And again, I don't depend on that money also. So that strengthens my idea. If I totally depend on that money, then I would have used it. But I always felt Saraswati is very kind to me. Let this money go to poor children, poor students. Because maybe it's a doctor in my mind. You never know. I'm a creative writer. I'm sure all of you are creative writer. Some idea, somewhere, some description, somewhere heard, somewhere seen, somewhere read. Like many riverlets makes a big river. Similarly, different ideas make me to write. And every story I have enjoyed. I become a child of 10 or 12 when I write, and I enjoy because all of your eyes are so innocent. The world you see through your eyes, then only you enjoy it. I've enjoyed as a child all this stories. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
beta. Very nice question. Good questions, difficult questions also. So I wish you all the best. And again, namaste to Rupert Roy ji, Vyash ji, and Deepa ji. God willing, we will meet sometime in Delhi. Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Love
NBT,
to.
Yuvraj
Yes.
ji also, everyone. And please excuse me, I have to attend COVID
Yes.
meeting.
No, no
Okay.
problem. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Bye.
ma'am. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Mm.
So I will go to the next then. Ayan Gogoi Gohai had a question for Subir Royji. Ayan, you can ask your question.
Yes, I
Actually, I
am.
have questions. Actually, I have two questions.
Yeah,
So
shoot.
excuse me because I am very shy.
I'm also shy. Tell me.
My first question is to Subir sir.
Yes.
How do we illustrate nature?
I illustrated what?
Nature. How do you illustrate nature?
How do I illustrate nature? Yes. Um,
Give
see, there are two things.
give a character,
Could you please repeat?
character and life.
How do you
Do
bring
it
character to life?
Yeah.
Thing like a tree.
Yes.
But
Yes.
what cannot talk or express?
Yes.
Sir
Uh,
and sir, will you please illustrate my second book?
oh, I'd love to. Yes. Yes, I'd love to. To answer your first question, uh, see, nature is something which I was brought up in a city, so there was not much of nature as such. But after growing up, I would occasionally, for the holidays, with my family, I'd go outside the city and all that. and then I would discover nature without realizing it. The smell of fresh leaves, for example, even on a summer night, summer day, even in a summer afternoon, the smell of fresh leaves, the cool breeze under tree and all that, the greeneries around, everything was fascinating. I did not realize what is making me feel good, but I could feel that I am being happy being there, right? It's much later now, for example, much later when I go out in the park. Delhi has got quite a few green parks and all that. So when I would go out in the park in the early morning or maybe in the late evening, I would find those smells, and then it will take me back to my childhood, and I would say, okay, this is what it is, and I am enjoying it. Now, when I started doing a little bit of sketching, I'll go out to, for example, there's an old fort in Delhi. It's a very old fort. There's a little water body. So I'll go and sit there, draw the fort, for example, draw the water, draw some of the vegetations and all that, and I will enjoy that. Right. So similarly, if you go to the hills, if you go to the sea beach, for example, I've been to Guwahati. I've been to Guwahati also. The new part of the city I like very much, and the old part of the city that has got its own charm also. Right. So that is how I appreciate nature, and then start drawing it. Then later on, once you have acquired a little skill, then you try to perfect it. That is first the creativity, next the technical part of it. And there's a combination of these two, and then you create some art. That is it.
And his
Yeah.
question of you're illustrating his second book.
Yeah, I would love to. Has he finished writing it? Gohan, have you finished writing it? My time is yours.
So, Ayan, what are you trying to show us? Is this your next book?
Picture.
Or the picture which you have done?
Let's see. The video is not showing the same.
Good. So, Ayan, have you done these pictures? He's done these pictures.
I just had a glimpse of that. I could see a little teddy bear of sort. Is that the one you're talking about? Teddy bear?
Yes, he's done all of it.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Yes, Ayan, what are you trying to say? Sorry.
An app. In my tablet, I have an app that I use to draw. That's how this becomes. This pictures is my drawing.
Maybe what you can do is you can send me later. Maybe you can mail it to me or something. I'll love to take a look.
Yes.
Okay. I just had a glimpse, but now it's not coming on my screen now.
Please guide me.
Okay, and so I think Subir Royji, we can put him in contact with you.
Sure. Yeah. I think that would be better. Yes.
So then Akshat had a question for Dr. Vyas. Akshat, you had a question for Dr. Vyas.
सर पहले तो जो आपने परिवेश लिखने में परिवेश के महत्व के बारे में बताया था वह मुझको बहुत अच्छा लगा। सर मैं आपसे यह पूछना चाहता हूँ जो आपको साहित्य अकादमी का सर्वोच्च सम्मान मिला है, यदि हमको भी ऐसे ही मुकाम पर पहुंचना है तो हमको क्या करना चाहिए?
सर आपका माइक म्यूट है।
हाँ, अब सुन रहे हैं जी? एक बार वापस क्वेश्चन रिपीट करेंगे?
सर मैं आपसे ये पूछना चाह रहा था कि आपको जो साहित्य अकादमी का सर्वोच्च सम्मान मिला है, यदि हमको भी बस उस मुकाम पर पहुंचना है तो हमको क्या करना चाहिए?
बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न किया है अक्षत तुमने। असल में मैंने बहुत सारी चीजें तो बताई थी तुम्हें कि साहित्य अकादमी अवार्ड कोई बहुत ज्यादा मायने नहीं रखता है, कोई भी जो है। मूल बात होता है कि हम लिखते किस तरह से हैं और जो लिखा हुआ आपका जो अगर पाठक ज्यादा पसंद करते हैं उसको, और उसमें अगर वो कालजयी बन जाता है लेखन जो आपका, जैसे मैंने रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर की बात की, या दूसरे जो लेखकों की बात करें, हेमिंगवे की बात करते हैं अपन, टॉलस्टॉय की बात करते हैं अपन, हिंदुस्तान में बात करें तो टैगोर की बात करते हैं अपन, तो उन लोगों ने जो लिखा है वो जीवन का एक प्रकार का अनुभव का रूपांतरण है। और अगर आप बेहतर लिखते हैं तो निश्चित रूप से एक समय वो आता है जब आपको साहित्य अकादमी नहीं बल्कि नोबेल पुरस्कार मिलने से भी कोई रोक नहीं सकता है। मूल बात जो मैं आपसे कहना चाहता हूँ कि लिखने के प्रति आपका डेडिकेशन मुझे लगता है जरूरी है। हम केवल लिखने के लिए नहीं लिखें कि हमें इतनी सारी किताबें लिख देनी है कि 10 किताबें लिख दी, 20 किताबें लिख दी। किताबें ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण नहीं रखते कि कितनी किताबें आ रही है अपनी। मुझे लगता है उससे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण यह है कि हम जो लिख रहे हैं वो कैसा लिख रहे हैं, वो पाठकों को कितना उद्वेलित करता है। आप देखिए कि गुलेरी ने केवल एक कहानी लिखी थी, उसने कहा था, कभी नाम सुना है इस बार गुलेरी का?
हाँ जी सर।
उसने कहा था, एक कहानी लिखी थी लेकिन उस एक कहानी से वो अमर हो गई गुलेरी जो है। तो ऐसा है कि अपन कुछ इस तरह की चीजें लिखें जिसमें एक चीज भी ऐसी हो जिसमें साहित्य अकादमी अवार्ड के आपको बहुत सारे और अवार्ड भी निरंतर मिलते जाएंगे। मैंने अभी नर्मदेहर एक किताब यात्रा वृतांत है मेरा, वो लिखा था मैंने, क्योंकि बहुत से स्थानों पर जाता हूँ व्याख्यान देने के लिए, और तब वो जो चीजें अनुभूत करता हूँ उनको यात्राओं में मैं पिरो देता हूँ यात्रा वृतांत के रूप में जो है। तो वो नर्मदेहर कुछ समय में उसका दूसरा संस्करण जो है एनबीटी ने पब्लिश कर दिया था। तो मूल बात यह कि पाठक अगर आपकी किताबों को पसंद करते हैं, आपके लिखे साहित्य का और भी बड़ा अवार्ड को निश्चित रूप से मिलेगा आपको।
थैंक यू सर।
थैंक यू डॉक्टर व्यास। अब ध्रुवादित्य तिवारी दीपा मैम से कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना चाह रहे हैं, बताइए।
Ma'am, I wanted to ask that who encouraged you to write and what all obstacles you faced in the writing process and how you overcame them?
मैम आपका माइक।
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that question. Well, I personally feel it was all the books that I read inspired me to write. After I was an avid reader, and after reading and reading and reading, one day the thought came to me that maybe I can try writing my own stories too, and also the stories that I listened to. That that helped me to form a framework in my mind about what stories are about, what the kind of story that I myself would enjoy reading. Now, about obstacles. Well, getting published is not really easy. And especially at the time that when I began writing, there were very few publishers of children's books. And there was only Children's Book Trust, strictly speaking. I mentioned about how, the first story that I had published in a magazine, and it was after, 2 stories had been rejected. And I got lucky because the editor, she was a very different kind of person. She wrote a very nice rejection note, an encouraging rejection note that do try again. And I think that what was extremely helpful. Apart from that, it didn't mean that, if one story is accepted, that all your work is going to be accepted. Even today, I face rejection with my books. So I learned, and in fact, I used to, write pieces for newspapers, and at that time, they would send the article back. And one of my daughters used to say, "Oh, all your articles keep coming back." But I said, "No, I I do feel that even if they come back, they might be published somewhere else." So, as a writer, you have to have that belief in yourself that something I've written, something I put so much into it, maybe one person doesn't like it. It's very subjective. You may like one particular book, somebody else may just hate it. And it's the same way when you're sending a piece of work to an editor. So that is something that you have to develop. That, okay, it doesn't mean the end. This rejection doesn't mean the end. The other obstacles, of course, in when you're developing a story, and sometimes it's not going the way you want it, and everyone talks about writer's block. Well, we have to develop a way to deal with that as well. Most of the time, I just leave the story if it's not going, and everything doesn't flow smoothly in life. People think that you just go and dash off a story. It's not like that. It's some stories may come very quick and very fast, but some stories you have to think a lot, take breaks, go back to them, leave them aside for some time, go back and get a fresh perspective. But at the end of the day, it's just your motivation and your self belief that will help you to overcome any obstacle that you might face in your career. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes.
Yes?
Thank you.
क्या मैं भी दीपा का से प्रश्न पूछ सकता हूँ?
Wait, Akshat. First, Yashi has to have a chance, and then I'll come back to you. So, Yashi, you had a question for Deepa ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Now my question is, how do you showcase character growth in your story, and how do you make your characters seem real?
Okay, good question. How do I showcase character growth? Yeah, we all know that character growth is very important. And sometimes, you are just writing, an idea has taken hold of your mind, and you just write. And then suddenly you realize that there is something not, something missing in this particular character. At that point, I think one should pause and think, what are the challenges this character is going to face? And for that, I think a certain amount of plotting is necessary. Everyone has their own method of writing, but definitely it helps if before you are actually starting to write a story, if you sit down and think about your characters, make a list. Sometimes I make a table for myself in which I write down the personality traits, the relationships with the other people around them, and to what you were saying about character development, it's their goal, it's the obstacle. We all know that each story is the solution of a problem, isn't it? Each and every character, if you think of Harry Potter, what is his problem? It's Voldemort. So every story is the answer to a problem that is facing the main character. And then you have to think about what are the qualities the character possesses to be able to, eventually solve that problem. And that process becomes the character, with the growth of the development of a character, which is so essential to write a satisfactory story. And the other thing you asked was, what was the other part of your question?
How do you make your characters seem real?
How do you make your characters seem real? Now, see, there are many ways to do this. First of all, you have to, pay attention when you are thinking about your character. That is why, again, I said it makes sense to uh, give a lot of thought to your characters. And let me share something. Sometimes I base my characters on real people, but I try not to do it completely so that a person may not, feel offended or hurt or something like that. But a lot of the time, my characters are drawn from real life. And then you place your character in a situation. Like, for example, if a child of contemporary times, if you make them speak, dialogue is a very important way of making them credible. The kind of language they're using. And I used to ask my daughters when they were younger to help me with the dialogue, because I wanted the dialogue to be that which children actually spoke in their real lives. Then, apart from that, uh, you have to also place them in situations which can actually happen. That is what happens. Sometimes your imagination runs away with you, but you have to really take control of yourself. Imagination is a wild horse, and that is something that we have to understand. That unless we keep hold the reins tightly, your imagination can lead you to difficult corners. So I think every time you when you've written your first draft, you have to go over the second draft very carefully and make notes to see where this is, working, where this is, out of character, this person is not credible. And a good idea is also to give it to somebody close to you whom you trust. Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Akshat, you had a question? Ask quickly.
मैं दीपा मैम से यह पूछना चाहूंगा, जो आपने हिंदू गॉड्स एंड गॉडेसेस कहानी लिखी है, उसको लिखने की आपको प्रेरणा कैसे मिली? क्या आपको भारतीय हिंदू देवताओं और देवियों के विषय में रुचि है?
ये बहुत अच्छा सवाल आपने पूछा। वैसे सच बताऊं तो वो एक कमीशन्ड बुक थी। वैसे उससे पहले मैंने बहुत देवी देवताओं की कहानियां लिखी हैं। उससे पहले मैंने एक क्लासिक इंडियन टेल्स लिखी थी, जिसमें बहुत सी पुरानी कहानियां हैं, और पुरानी कहानियों में मुझे बहुत रुचि है। पर ये जो किताब है, इसका जो है आइडिया मुझे पब्लिशर में एडिटर से कहा कि व्हाई डोंट यू राइट अ बुक ऑन हिंदू गॉड्स एंड गॉडेसेस। तो इसलिए ये किताब निकली। आपने पढ़ी है क्या?
यस, हाँ जी मैम।
अच्छा, तो और मैंने कोशिश की, पर जब मैंने ये किताब लिखी, मैंने कोशिश की कि इसको थोड़े रीडेबल स्टाइल से लिखूं, नॉन सीरियस स्टाइल से लिखूं, क्योंकि इन सब कहानियों में कुछ वैल्यूज निकल के आते हैं। अगर आप ध्यान से देखेंगे तो हर एक कहानी में एक वैल्यू निकल के आता है। तो उसमें मैंने फोकस किया है, और उसमें बहुत सुंदर इलस्ट्रेशंस भी हैं, जिनसे कहानियां जो है एकदम चमक गई, मुझे ऐसा लगता है। I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Correct. I think we have come to the end of the session. In case the eminent authors would like to ask anything to the child authors, or we can then close the session.
I think the child authors have told us some wonderful things about their experiences, of how they came to write their stories, their particular books, and I can feel they are driven by a passion. It's a wonderful thing to see. And all I'd like to say now, you're doing very well. Keep at it, and don't let anything get you down, and keep writing and enjoying the process of life. And all the best to everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. डॉक्टर व्यास, आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं बच्चों से?
हाँ, मुझे अच्छा लगा आप लोगों के साथ, सबके साथ में संवाद, और मुझे लगता है कि बच्चों का जो लेखन, जो अनुभव उन्होंने बताया उन्होंने, और जिस तरह की जो प्रश्न उन्होंने किए, उससे लगता है कि एक उत्सुकता, एक जिज्ञासापन उनके अंदर है, और ये मुझे लगता है कि इसको निरंतर बरकरार रखा जाना चाहिए कि हम लोग जितना अधिक पढ़ेंगे उतना ही और अधिक संपन्न होते जाएंगे, और जितना परिवेश को अनुभूत करेंगे उतना ही अपने अंदर और जो है लिखने के लिए और चीजें मिलती चली जाएगी, क्योंकि लिखने के लिए सामग्री जो है वो कहीं और से नहीं आएगी, आपको आसपास से ही कहीं मिलेगी। वहीं से कोई स्टोरी ऐसी जनरेट हो सकती है, वहीं से कोई, आप कहीं यात्रा पर जाते हैं तो यात्रा जनरेट हो सकती है। मैं आपको एक छोटी सी बात बताना चाहूंगा कि मैं कोणार्क गया था बहुत पहले जो है, और उस समय पेरेंट्स के साथ गए थे कोणार्क, और फोटो वोटो खिंचा के हम लोग आ गए थे वहां से। और जब कभी कोई कहता कहीं गए हैं तो हम बताते हैं कि देखिए रथ, सूर्य का रथ है, उसके पीछे रथ है, और फोटो बता देते थे। लेकिन जब प्रतिभा राय का कोणार्क उपन्यास मैंने पढ़ा तो मुझे लगा कि कोणार्क गया ही नहीं था मैं, क्योंकि जिस तरह से उन्होंने उकेरा था उसमें उस कोणार्क को जो है, उसके बाद लगा कि वापस जाना चाहिए, और फिर से वापस में गया। तो मुझे लगता है इस रूप में भी आप सभी को जो है सोचना चाहिए कि हम किसी स्थान को, किसी परिवेश को किस तरह से अनुभूत करते हैं। निश्चित रूप से एक नई आंख हम लोगों को देखने को मिलती है, अपने अंदर ही जो है भीतर को देखने को मिलती है, और उस आंख के साथ अगर लिखा जाएगा तो बहुत सार्थक लिखा जाएगा, और बहुत आगे तक आपका लेखन जो है पहुंचेगा। मैं यही कहना चाहता हूँ कि सभी इस रूप में सजग रहें, सब सजग रहें, परिवेश के प्रति सजग रहें, तो बहुत अच्छा आप लिखेंगे। और निश्चित रूप से जो कुछ बच्चों ने बताया, जिस तरह से लोग लिख रहे हैं, वो उम्मीद जताने वाला है, और मैं कह सकता हूँ कि आने वाले समय में इन बच्चों का बहुत बड़ा नाम जो है होगा। और ये हो सकता है कि ये जो एनबीटी ने जो वॉइस यूथ वॉइस जो की है उसका भी एक सार्थक परिणाम इस रूप में सामने आएगा। सबने इसमें जो भाग लिया उन सबको, कंचन जी आपको, युवराज जी को, सुधीर राय जी को और दीपा जी को, सबको मेरा नमस्कार और सबको बहुत बहुत आभार।
Mr. Subir Roy ji, would you like to say something to the children?
Yeah. Every morning when you get up, you feel that you are blessed because there are many children in the world who are not. Some of them are special children. Some of them have got other problems also in life. So the one who not have those problems, you should be thankful that you are able to see the sunrise, you're able to hear certain sounds of the chirping of the birds and all that, you are able to walk properly, all these things. These are very important, and you don't realize the value of these things also. And then because you have got eyes, you observe every bit of the nature, which is, it can be a park, it can be houses in the colony, it can be a hill station, it can be the sea, it can be anything really. And each one is very special. As long as a human being lives, all these things is got a purpose. And we are blessed to have all these elements around us. And if you are writing, those elements have got certain place in your mind. If you're writing, you come out with maybe poem or a write-up or a story or something. If you have the skill for art drawing, then you draw certain things. If you're a photographer, any kind of creative expressions, they come out from whatever you are seeing around. Learn to enjoy, be very positive, and live life. And that's the best part of life. And you don't waste a single day in your life. Okay. Thank you very much, really. It was a wonderful experience for me, and it was a great pleasure to see the child prodigies around. And I'm really thankful to Yuvrajji, to National Book Trust. And like I said, I was a big time fan of Pratham organization. Sudhaji has just left. And Deepaji, of course, I'm a great fan of her, right? And Yashi, I would look forward to see some of the books which you just talked about, especially the one about Konark and all that, and some of the live love to explore some of it. Thank you all very much. I'm very happy to hear. Thank you.
So, I think on behalf of NBT, on behalf of our director, I would like to firstly thank Sudha ma'am, Deepa ma'am, Dr. Vyas, Subir ji, for sharing so many experiences of your writing experiences, illustration experiences with all the chat authors and with us, and enlightening us in the way. And I would also like to thank all the child authors, Ayan Gogoi Gohai, Sarah Rose, Akshat Gupta, Rupert Roy, Ayan Kapadia, Yashi Tripati. I hope I have named everybody and I haven't left anyone. So, yeah, is there something you want to say?
हाँ जी मैम, मैं बस आखिरी बार नेशनल बुक ट्रस्ट को धन्यवाद कहना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि जब भी मैंने अब तक सारी किताबें अपनी पब्लिश करवाई हैं, लोगों को विश्वास नहीं होता कि बच्चे किताबें कैसे लिख सकते हैं। पर ऐसे क्वेश्चन भी आए कि ये किताब तुमने लिखी है, तो कहीं ना कहीं बहुत बुरा लग जाता था। तो मैं आपको अंतिम बार आपका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ कि आपने हम पर विश्वास किया और हमको इतना प्रोत्साहन दिया।
Thank you, Akshay. Thank you. I think आप सब child authors को देखकर हम लोगों को बहुत encouragement and motivation मिला है. And National Book Trust has been working in this field for a long time to encourage reading and writing in the country. And lastly, before ending, I would request my director, sir, would you like to say something?
Thank you, Kanchanji, and thank you so much to all the esteemed panelists, young authors, and future authors of the country. Let me be very clear about one thing. जितना हम सोचते हैं बच्चे उससे कहीं ज्यादा क्रिएटिव होते हैं, जितना हम सोचते हैं उससे कहीं ज्यादा वो इंटेलिजेंट होते हैं, जितना हम उनको सोचते हैं उससे कहीं ज्यादा वो सेंसिटिव भी होते हैं। तो उस सेंसिटिविटी को हमें रीड करने की जरूरत है, और उसको रीड करने के बाद उसको एम्बियंस देना है। एक बोलते हैं कि डोंट गिव देम ए फिश, टीच देम हाउ टू फिश। तो सिमिलरली आपको हमें ये नहीं बताना कि आप ये लिखो, हमें आपको लिखने का एक तरीका बताना है, क्या लिखना है फिर वो आप सोचिए। So we are here to give you the wings, the fuel, the platform and the runway. उड़ान तो सिर्फ आपको भरनी है। So we'll provide you all the required platform and resources. You just need a will and a willingness. एक छोटी सी एक पोएम है कि दूसरों के परों से अक्षत उड़ सकते हो हद से हद दीवारों तक। दूसरों के परों से उड़ सकते हो हद से हद दीवारों तक, आसमान में वही उड़ेगा जिसके खुद के पर होंगे। So I request all the young budding children of the country, get your own wings and don't seek certification from anyone. You are the marvelous creature and you will do wonders. We will just facilitate your efforts. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the
Thank you, sir.
encouraging words. And thank you everyone present on behalf of National Book India. I thank you all and have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.